Welcome everybody to this mentoring session today, and very to the point session today, which is get ruthless or go home. Too often I'm having conversations with people which are along the lines of, I've been testing the same phrase for 6 months, or I've been testing the same 5 phrases for 6 months. It's just crazy and insane, and it's time to just put a knife and an axe into the head of that sort of thinking when it comes to testing. It really is time to sort that wheat from the chaff. You've got to remember why we are testing phrases. You've got to remember the fundamental reasons why we are testing. It's because all the data that Google gives us is a lie. Okay? It's a fabrication. It's a best guesstimate based on literally millions of computers which make up this amorphous data center blob, which is Google. So depending on the time of day, the way you access the internet, depending on all these things, this information is bull. It's a fabrication based on what's going on at that particular time. So we need to test. We need to see if the traffic is real. That's why we're doing it. Is the traffic real? There's no way that there's no data, there's no screen, there's no program on the planet. As much as we love Market Samurai, which is only giving you Google and majestic SEO data anyway, it's all a fabrication. And the only way we can do this is test. And we have to test quickly, and we have to test ruthlessly. Another thing which is really pervading thinking, which is just a real concern, and I need to slap on the head right now, is that one phrase does not make a market. You know, it's what you think just because you're number one in, pottery valuation techniques, that's going to make you your fortune, that's even going to pay the bills at the end of the month. It's one phrase of hopefully around 100 unique visitors or more. It's the phrase is not what's going to make you the money. It's the amount of traffic that you generate across all of your properties, across all of your web pages inside a market that's going to make you the money. These phrases we're testing, we're looking for little sideways in, because as you're also discovering, if you try test too competitive a phrase, if your resource eyes are bigger than your backlinking stomach, then you're wasting your time. So that's why we test small little off-Broadway phrases, so that we can see if that market does indeed have the traffic, and does that traffic actually buy anything. This is not a religious commitment. We are not signing up to 7 years in a monastery on this phrase. It's not a big deal. It's just test or not. Does it work or not? That's it. So many people are focused on this initial phrase, and it is a classic wood from the trees scenario. You get so obsessed over a phrase that you just forget that there's actually an entire other market of phrases. There's only one phrase for pottery valuation? There's only one phrase for underwater kickboxing? No. There are many, many phrases, and we need traffic from all of them. And just testing that market means that we are not, we're testing that phrase, doesn't mean that we're going to get all this traffic. Yet people, yay, you're number one for, Rebecca Black's new fragrance. Congratulations. Big freaking deal. It is one phrase. I don't know anybody who's made their fortune on one phrase. Doesn't make sense. And as soon as I tell this to anybody, they go, oh yeah. But the way people are working, you must believe this, because that's the way people are setting up their processes, and it's nuts. Which brings me to this next point, which is just because the phrase sucks, it does not mean the market sucks. It means that particular phrase didn't work. It didn't have the traffic that Google led you to believe that it would have. Or, which is one thing, far worse is, of course, when it does have the traffic that Google would have you believe, but they don't want to buy anything. They don't click on any ads. They don't give any indication of any form of commercial behavior. But just because, underwater kickboxing equipment doesn't work, does that mean underwater kickboxing as a market sucks? Of course it doesn't. It means that one single phrase that you've tested of all the phrases that exist in that market. And subsidiary phrases, which of course people type in that are not necessarily related, but useful. If somebody's typed in golf holiday, do you think they might be interested in golf equipment? Duh, of course. Just because the phrase sucks does not mean the market sucks. To put it even more plainly and even more bluntly, you need a sausage factory of phrase testing. You need to get serious about this. It breaks my heart when I hear somebody has been testing a phrase for 6 months. Because it's just, insane. We'll discuss why that's insane in a second. This is not beautiful. It is not pretty. It is not anything. It is ruthless. We need to test, see if the phrase works. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, discard it with extreme prejudice. Move on. Get out of it. It's just crazy. You have limited resources, and flogging a dead horse is not a smart use of those resources. Yet time and time and time again, I'm speaking with people who have been testing phrases for 6 months. Far out! I almost swore then. It's just crazy. Just crazy. In fact, I'm so depressed I'm using bullets. If you've been testing a phrase for 6 months, you tackled a market beyond your capacity to backlink. It's that simple. You tackled a phrase in a market that is beyond your capacity to backlink. Just like we often, say you should choose your markets based on where you consider your level of skills are at. So many times I see, new people come onto the challenge. The first thing they tackle is dog training or weight loss. Where, the hardest, hardcore Richard Cousins industrial SEO practiced people on the planet with huge teams and huge resources are in those markets. So why do that? And I think what we're seeing at the moment is this same non-acknowledgement or blind spot or, if I wish it secret style, it will happen capacity to choose phrases in a market which are beyond your capacity to backlink. It's just insane. You need to choose a less competitive BLP column or build your backlinks creation capacity. They are the two choices. If you're using SEO to test markets, then you either need to acknowledge and choose less competitive BLPs and build your backlink creation capacity. Classic situation that I'm seeing at the moment. The market has barely enough traffic as it is. The SEOT is around the 80 mark. I noticed that Market Samurai have changed their golden rules to move their traffic down from 80 to 50. I think that's crazy. I think that's insane. Why spend the effort? You would have to be guaranteed of getting number one. And, so many people go into a market, they have a look at the phrase and they go, okay, I'm going to go test that market. It barely makes the grade at 80 a day. And you look at the number one and consider, remember, the top phrase is going to get you 80. The bottom phrase is going to get you the second phrase is going to get you 4 times less than that, about 20. And if you look sometimes at the established markets, that first, even if you've got 10, 5, 12, 13, 12 backlinks, BLP, for all of the phrases from 2 to 10, awesome. But if the number one has 5,000 backlinks, you're not going to get number one anytime soon at your current backlink creation capacity. And so if you're testing a phrase, it's only going to deliver you 80 SEOT at best at the number one position, and you haven't got a snowflake's chance in hell of getting the number one position. You are just slamming your virtual head against a virtual brick wall. It's insanity, and it's got to stop. You know these numbers, but people are still refusing to look at them. You've got to get this. This is the core to business. You can't fall in love with markets. You can't fall in love with phrases. You have to test them, dump them, or use them. It's that simple. The key difference between testing and building a market, and this is something I wanted to follow on from last group session. Yeah, because I spent a lot of time in the last group session talking about what I see are fundamental changes coming in SEO. What I didn't make clear, subsequently having talked to a lot of people about what I said, is that people somehow confused what I was saying about testing and building a market. First of all, what is the key difference between testing and building a market? Have you made any effing money? If you haven't made any money, you're still testing the market. Just to be absolutely and totally clear. Should be obvious, but it's not. And while you're testing a market and building a market, you are operating under two completely different approaches. If you're testing a market, it's all about quantity. If you're building a market, it's all about quality. Key and core difference. Absolutely key difference. When you are testing, aka you haven't made any effing money, it's all about quantity. Quantity of phrases, quantity of backlinks. Getting those backlinks, wherever you can. And what is also horrifying to me is that people are letting their team members, their outsourcing team, dictate how backlinking occurs. My goodness me. We have taught and taught and taught and taught again the correct approach to backlinking. This is your backlinkers week. Let's just make it very clear one more time. At the start of the week, your outsourcers are doing all automated backlinking tasks, all leverage backlinking tasks, aka using something like Article Marketing Automator or Ultimate Marketing Wizard, or ideally both, and Linkvana, and, super duper link builder of the month, whatever it is. The more leverage building activities that you can do per phrase, per week is great. Now, not multiple in one of those, like doing 20 submissions on the same phrase in AMA in a week is pointless. But doing one submission per phrase, per service, per week is brilliant and ensures that you do the least amount of backlinking to at least maintain consistency from a Google perspective. But you do all the automated stuff first. If your team has time at the end of the week, that's when they do manual backlinking. And just teach them to do it smart. Don't go out there and just robotically put in the phrase in the name section and the URL and anchor text, because you have a look at the blog teach them to look at the blog for 30 seconds and have a look at the comments and look what's approved. If all you see is names there, then nobody's going to approve underwater kickboxing as a name. They're only going to approve Ed Dale. So why waste their time? Just put their name in. It is common sense. Now, once you've found a market, and remember how we test that, you've made some money, you've actually made the decision to build a market out. That's when we talk about we completely switch tacks. And it's all about high PR. It's all about quality. It's all about guest blogging. It's all about market leadership. It's all about all those things which I believe are going to make you stand out from the crowd. Great content, which is going to get you tweeted, which is going to get people to comment on their Facebook status pages. We already saw during the week Bing turn on integration for Facebook likes, which I think is powerful. Immediately after that, surprise, 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 Google launched their social indicators. And if you notice this, you'll notice right down the bottom of the page, you'll notice that, if Google's got some sort of profile on you, they will show articles that are related that your friends have either put into something like Buzz or whatever social indicators they have available to them, mainly Twitter at this point.